Give me some sugar, all you radical dudes and dudettes. ToyShiz here, and I'm back at again to give you guys another, well, I guess say, Who's Sugarman's Best comparison video. The old Toybiz Mutants and Monsters figure versus the brand new Hasbro Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Sugarman. And both of them are very cool figures. Sugarman is just a very interesting, fun character. He's so disgusting looking that I think it really lends itself for a good monster action figure. And to start it off, way back in the day, the original Sugarman was part of the X-Men Toybiz Mutants and Monsters line, and I have a full video up. I'll put a link in the description below and up top and everything else if you want to check it out. But keep in mind when talking about this video, the Sugarman has been drawn 1,000 different ways. Usually he's just the big head guy, multiple arms, little legs, big mouth. He can grow really big, he can grow really tiny, he comes with an axe, a Mjolnir hammer looking thing with sugar on it. He just looks like a madball pig with arms, but he's so delectably evil looking that it just makes for a very fun, gross, disgusting character. And I think that really, before getting into it, both of these action figures really do capitalize it. I love this artwork right here, but let's get into really comparing them and talking about each of the figures. So with the original Toybiz, I would say that they knocked it out of the park in terms for doing what they did back in the day. Excellent paint everywhere on this guy, really nice teeth. He's got a wicked tongue to him, spikes, belts, multiple hands. All of them really painted nicely. He's got moles painted. You know, they really had some attention to detail. He came with 2 different weapons. You had the sugar tattoo on one of his arms, which we'll get to in just a second. And on the back, you could see that, again, the paint continued. He had the belts, he had all the straps. He does have a lever on his back, and then, of course, the holes for the sound and the battery cover. So I know a lot of times people nowadays don't really care for that. I actually really like that, and I'll push the button on this thing coming soon and show you exactly what he does. But for the time, this was kind of a cool, interesting development in the sense of you could swap out his hands and for the most part his weapons, so to speak. But yes, you are limited to where you can put the hands, obviously, but it was kind of cool. You could swap out each of the, either a fisted hand where you could hold the weapons or the more claws out kind of deal. And I like that they painted the fingernails, the moles on his face, just a lot of fun. You can see that they just went to town and they just wanted to produce a really interesting old school figure. In terms of the new Hasbro Build-A-Figure, you got 7 figures to collect. You get all the pieces, you put this guy together, and in all honesty, having seen him on display at Toy Fair and now having him built in hand, this is a magnificent Build-A-Figure. Let's just say figure in and of itself. He's got this wicked wild tongue, and you can see the curvature. That's an S, baby, for sugar. I love little things that they throw in like that, just elements of design. He's got some nice painted buttons, of course, much like the Toybiz one, but it's a little bit, you know, and the paint on this guy, while it is fantastic, he is missing a lot of, I think, paint that would have just elevated this thing to utter perfection. He is a great figure, terrific figure, but little elements here and there, I would have loved to have just seen them throw that in there, and it would have just been overall perfection. In terms of the design of the figure, like I said, Sugarman has been drawn 1,000 different ways. This time, he's got a short haircut going on, more elevated horns, more going up in a devil position on the back. You get to see a lot more of the musculature. He's got a really interesting texture to him. It looks like hair. He also kind of looks like he's wet and everything else. So that's very cool. He's got one of those New Jersey 1970s Son of Sam sort of t-shirts on, well, wife beaters, let's say. And overall, he just looks like a giant spidery, multi-armed creature with a mouth for a face. In terms of the articulation, he sure as heck has a lot of it. Double jointed elbows and arms every which way. He has weapon storage for his sugar hammer right on the side. I definitely dig that. It fits in there. Once it's in there, it's snug, but it takes a little bit of a, you know, kind of messing with it to kind of pop it in there correctly. You can get him in some cool poses. You can get him on one foot. He doesn't exactly stay put all the time. And he is a little bit top heavy sometimes when you start putting his arms way up top or kind of back. So just keep it in mind. But for the most part, he's pretty solid, and he's a heavy, hefty figure. This thing is like a brick. I'm telling you right now, this is one of like the heavier Build-A-Figures And it's so refreshing to see because you can see the joy on his face that they just had a blast creating this character. In terms of how they really differentiate, I would say that the old Toybiz one has a little bit more interesting paint going to him, but that's not to say the new Build-A-Figure. Whereas on Toybiz, you know, you got the different buttons, you got the shoulder pads, you got the spikes, you got all the buckles and everything else painted, the moles on his face. Whereas the Marvel Legends one, while it is a beautifully painted figure, beautifully sculpted, if it would have just had just a little bit more paint to him, I mean, it deserves the paint. It's a beautifully created figure, and to not have the paint in certain areas, it's such a bummer, missed opportunity. You can touch it up yourself, I'm sure, but it deserves the extra paint because it's just so fantastic. In terms of the mouth on both of these figures, the Toybiz one has a play feature where the jaw will open and close with some sound. The Hasbro one obviously doesn't work. It's got a little bit more paint, a little bit more detailed paint, we'll just say, on the Hasbro one. And I like that it's sculpted in that sense. Also, he's got a uvula in the back, which is really cool to see. The Toybiz one, the tongue goes off to the side. He does have some bloodied looking teeth, which is kind of cool. The buttons are painted. The rivets for his Hot Topic belts are all painted. I like it. I don't necessarily love the tongue. The tongue on the new Sugarman is infinitely better, I would say, just in terms of the sculpting nature. The buttons lag a little bit here and there, and he's a little bit, you can see the seams, you know, of the figure. It's not a huge problem for me, but it's just something to point out. But again, on his Hot Topic belt, I would have loved to have seen some paint to it. The rings are painted. That's a really nice aspect to it. I really wish they would have painted the fingernails, just saying, although there's artwork where he doesn't have the black fingernails, so give or take here and there. The hair on the arms would have been cool, just a little bit more shading, things of that nature. The top of the hair, of course, the original Sugarman's got a sweet mullet ponytail going on. This new Sugarman's a short-haired guy. I love that you can see the more muscular nature of him. He doesn't have the big, huge, of course, mechanism peg on his back. You get to see some hair, you get to see some muscles. That's cool. I'm glad they went the extra mile. Again, the belt's infinitely painted better on the old Toybiz one. He even has some weapons here and there that they stuck within the loops of his belt. But it is really nice to see the difference. It's two Sugarmans infinitely, over and over again. It's two different Sugarmans. And I like that. You can even see some sculpting on the belt. You got little stitches here and there on the new Hasbro one. I would say the main difference that the new Sugarman is missing is the Sugar Heart tattoo. That's a big staple for the character. It was on the old Toybiz one. The new one doesn't have it. Of all the paint and everything I've just discussed, those are my nitpicks. I really think if he had anything going on, he definitely needed to have the sugar tattoo just because it's such a poignant piece to him. It's Sugarman, and of course he loves sugar, and he's got a sugar tattoo. Why not? In terms of the accessories, not too big a difference. Only being the exception is that the original Toybiz came with two. You got a sugar mallet. It's all carved in there. I like that aspect to it. And you get little distress lines here and there. Like, these things have been used in battle many a times. The new Sugarman, it says sugar, of course. I think it's a reuse of the 12-inch Thor that came out a few years back. It does look like it's distressed. The marble looks all affected and everything else. I just wish it had more paint for the handle. It's kind of missing that the Toybiz one succeeds. The new Sugarman can hold the old Sugarman's weapons. Of course, not well. They're a little bit loose in his hands. The old Sugarman cannot hold the new Sugarman's weapons, just FYI. He's got too tight a grip going on. And both of these do look really well with the new Marvel Legends figures. Of course, the old Toybiz Sugarman's going to look good with the old 5-inch. The new Sugarman's going to look glorious with the new Marvel Legends, but you can swap them out. I've always said that the old Sugarman does work well with Marvel Legends. It's just a very detailed figure, and if you put him in the back, yeah, he definitely works. The new Sugarman, a little bit more detailed, not going to really fit with the old 5-inch figures. But in terms of pairing him up with the old Dark Beast, the new Dark Beast, the old Sugarman does work well with the old Dark Beast, of course. But these two are perfection. They walked right out of the comic book. It is amazing what they achieved there. In wrapping it up, I'm going to say that you need both of these figures. No joke. They're both great iterations of a Sugarman, and they're both great representations of the many, many different ways the Sugarman has been represented In comics, you got a larger one with the Build-A-Figure, you got a bit of a smaller one with Toybiz. He can change his size. They're both amazing figures. One's got paint, one does have a really cool play feature. This is what really tops it for me. I love seeing this because it's just an old school thing. So many memories associated with it. And that wicked evil laugh is just, that's a big thing this one's missing. But nowadays we don't do that, of course. But it is something that is really cool for the old Sugarman. The paint, the sculpt, everything that this guy has going on is amazing. He's missing a little paint here and there, but he's a glorious figure. The old Toybiz one knocks it out of the park. Yeah, he's an older figure, older articulation, everything else, but you can still see the detail, the weapons, everything on this guy. I like both the hairstyles. I like both the way that they're portrayed, the horns, the tongues, everything else. You need both of these figures. If you can only get one, and you're only Marvel Legends collector, yeah, get the Build-A-Figure. You're definitely going to be happy with him. If you don't really mind articulation here and there, track this guy down. You will never be disappointed with this one. But I am curious to know what you guys think about the Sugarmans. How many times did I say Sugarman in this video? Comment below, let me know. Let's talk everything X-Men in the new AOA wave. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. As always, drink some great coffee, eat some great food, but most importantly, remember, the only accessory we're missing is a pair of sunglasses so I could create Cool Guy Sugarman. I'm just saying. And when you do, let me know what you found. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.